Flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty for justice for all. You do a roll call, please.
Councilmember Clerk. Councilmember Collings.
Here.
Councilmember Stackflet.
Here.
Councilmember Glodman.
Here.
Mayor Redmond.
Here. Seeing no special presentations or announcements on the docket, we'll move into public comment. If anybody in the audience wishes to talk about anything for 3 minutes not on the agenda, come on up, give your name and address.
My name is Shasta. I live at 222 Pony Trail. I'm here to ask for more transparency, accountability for our police department and first responders. I was the jury foreman at the recent trial. It was a 148 trial. Prosecutor was Stephen Goldsberry. Defendant was Justin Denwabi. We watched pretty horrifying body camera footage of Justin Denwabi being brought to the ground in his own living room in front of his wife and children. This man had done nothing. Anyway, in the end, the investigation revealed that Justin had done nothing. Meanwhile, he and his family had gone through 9 months of this whole process. The incident occurred January 3rd. The trial was mid-September. We, the jury, were hung not guilty to guilty, 9-3, then eventually 11-1. Then eventually we acquitted him. It was a 12-jury acquittal. We all agreed. In that courtroom, the deliberations took a long time. I was harassed in the courtroom by 2 suited law enforcement people. They came in, so the jury was deliberating, and so we kept going back into the deliberation room, called back by the judge, and we said, we're hung, we'd go back. Somewhere in that process, late in the day, 2 law enforcement in business-type suits came in, glaring at me. And then I was harassed the next day after with vehicular traffic around my house, law enforcement vehicular traffic. I was very scared when I left the trial. I almost didn't want to serve on a jury again, but I decided it was worth it. I'm asking that what this situation indicated to me is that the law enforcement people who were harassing me during and after the trial felt that an acquittal would be wrong, but 12 jurors thought it was correct. It was an incident of police violence and police abuse, and I would like it investigated, and in general, more transparency, more accountability for our first responders. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to come up and speak? All right, seeing none, we'll close public comment. Bring it back to, go ahead, Todd, if you want to hand that to her. Okay. And then, yeah. So before Todd gets started on council and staff comments, does anybody else want to, if they have anything to share, while he hands over that business card?
Sorry. Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to report out that I have gone to, last week, a PERS training. I want to thank the city for that opportunity. It was a good experience, good information for me. I attended 8 or 10 different sessions on PERS and the responsibilities of the city. And as I think we learned during the negotiation process, that there were some open items that had in the past not been dealt with quite right. So one thing is that I did learn that we have a few issues in our volunteer fire department. And so Todd and I've met with the chief a couple times now, and we'll be probably bringing forward to you some new information about that. And then I also wanted to report that I've met with Charlie, our auditor. I met with him twice. We're going through the audit process now. Hopefully have that wrapped up. He's out of the country, so probably won't be till January or so. But there was one issue that he brought up as well around the way we're paying the volunteer fires, so that we have kind of two issues that came up at the same time that we'll need to bring forward in the coming weeks. And then I also just wanted to unfortunately notify you that we've had a resignation in the accounting department, and Aaron will be departing. So we'll be posting the recruitment. I think it got posted today. It'll be running in the newspaper for the next few weeks, and we'll hope to get somebody to replace her in the next couple months. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Melissa.
Question for,
Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
so you think it'll be January for complete conclusion of the audit, final numbers?
Yeah, I have rough numbers now. We're just working on,
You're gonna go over that.
yeah.
Do you have better than rough numbers on, say, the enterprise zone?
Enterprise funds?
Yeah, especially water and sanitary sewer?
Warren, sir. I didn't bring that. I think we
But
talked,
Could you bring it next time?
I could, yeah.
Okay.
I
And
won't,
the library too. 'Cause
yeah. I won't be here next meeting, but I could do that at the end of November.
Big switch for you.
That depends. Are we doing this switch on that day, or is that December, the last meeting of the year, that we're going to do the switch?
I like December.
I like the last meeting as well.
You need
Yeah, at least two more, you know.
that hammer's got your name. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
So that will-
Okay. Any other staff comments before I turn it over to Todd? Council, nobody? All right, Todd, go ahead.
Okay, so the first thing is that we have submitted a draft grant narrative, preliminary budget, and site plan to Sierra Nevada Conservancy for the Castle Creek daylighting. And the way this grant works is they want you to submit, details, a lot of details up front, with the idea that the program manager for your county reviews it and provides constructive feedback so you have a better opportunity, to win. And we've done that, and we expect comments back in time that we're able to submit by the grant deadline of, excuse me, December 1st. And what this would do is pay for, the max award is $500,000. And this is to pay for the planning and, 70% engineering drawings for Castle Creek. And then we have our, the first phase of this done, and then we can go out and seek construction funding for it.
Nice.
So we've been talking to the landing developers, obviously, a number of times a week. And we met again this morning, and we have a preliminary framework of how we want to move forward. Their thinking, excuse me, is that they want to move forward with housing on the landing property on the east side of Mount Shasta Boulevard, and to make consistent with the Surplus Land Act, 25% of that as being affordable, with other details to follow. Along with that, we, in some of our discussions and creative ways to get at workforce housing, we talked about the potential for, the group brought up, hey, we might want to talk to the Loge people since they're selling, potentially purchase that property. It's outside of the landing, but since they have a communal kitchen and some other communal spaces, to turn it into a co-housing situation where there are private rooms and common areas for, cooking and whatnot, but as a way, another way yet to get at the workforce housing issue. and they've already been in preliminary discussions with the Loge, and I don't want to get into too much detail, and it's not done until it's done, but they've been able to substantially bring the seller down in price. So we'll see where that goes. And then with the main landing site, they want to work with us on that master planning process with that EPA grant. We're putting that together, and the idea with that master planning process is to hold a number of meetings with the public with proposed uses on particular parcels on that west landing, and then seek as much input as we can and try to refine that proposal, so we're building as much public support as we can. So when we get to the point of bringing it here to Planning Commission and to Council for approval, we have a lot of folks out that really get behind this project. And then, the other piece of this too is they're reaching out to Ryan Valuations, who did the original appraisal for the entire landing. They're in touch to try to see how they can break down that appraisal for the entire property to specific parcels, and it's something that Ryan Valuations thinks they can do for them pretty quickly. And then finally, we met with the Library Tax Advisory Committee. We needed their buy-in on the drawings and a way forward on financing a GC and you know, constructing the renovations and expansion of the library. And they also to review the draft RFP I've got together to go out. And the group, sorry, John, they would really like to pull the library expansion committee back together one more time to get approval of that group for the drawings, which we've already looked at, but also to get further input on how, you know, on the funds that they've accumulated through the library tax on ways to fund the work to get it built. And so I said, okay, great, we can pull it together again.
Okay, that's fine. Did they mention the word grant? Like, we want to get a grant or grants?
Did they use the word grant, like we will move forward when we get grants?
No,
Because they're not going to.
They're not.
And they realize that, right?
they didn't. They realized that, and
Because I was just thinking, there'll come a time where we have to ignore the LTAC and just make a decision
Yes.
as to what that
And-
would be the council on this.
you know, what it boils down to is, in what we discussed, is essentially they've got to, you know, they know how much they have in reserve in tax money and what they're able to leverage for a grant they pay off over time. One. Two is if they want to set a finite period of time where they go out and do some fundraising, if there are people that are readily available that want to commit to funding a portion of this, then we know what our actual delta is that we need to finance, but we should move on it.
Yeah, well,
For those who don't know, the process for this library expansion started in 2016 at least, possibly before then. This is 2025. And so it's not getting any cheaper to build things in California. It never does. So
Yeah,
I'm just saying that if there's not a commitment to actually get this thing built by LTAC, we're going to wait, do fundraising, grant, we may have to look at making the decision ourselves here.
Yes, and the other exacerbating factor, you know, the other factor that's been exacerbated by the tariffs is Canadian lumber is skyrocketing, and I don't see tariffs coming down anytime soon. I'd rather pin a GC down on a price up front. So those are the main updates.
Okay. Good. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So Todd, we talked about how Dunsmuir uses their sanitary sewer
Yep.
funds to take care of their drainage system.
Yep.
Did you follow up on that to find out if that's something we could do?
So
Don't say it's a gray area. Is it a gray area?
it is. John Kenny is like, I don't
know, yeah.
Yeah.
Better than brown.
So I asked Charlie about that as well,
please.
and he didn't seem to have an issue with it. So we would need to do more research with John Kinney, but in most of the jurisdictions that he audits, they are one fund.
They are.
Yes. The drainage and wastewater are one fund. So I'll do some more
Interesting.
research as well on my side, and we can.
Very important in light of the Castle Creek project, because that's a drainage project.
Okay. Any other council staff comments? Go ahead, Casey.
I just wanted to address I forget your name, I'm sorry, I know you just
Shannon.
spoke. Shannon. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry you went through that. I didn't really respond, none of us really did, but like, just didn't want you to think we were sitting up here not hearing what you had to say. Like, that's not something anybody should go through. I know Todd gave you his contact and dealing with it, but just wanted to address that.
She had come to me the other day. We had a one-on-one conversation about that as well.
And, when we talk tomorrow, for me to actually, start any kind of investigation, what I need is specific dates and times, and if anybody, if an officer was in uniform, the officer, and again, at specific time, because then we're able to pull body cam footage, and any witnesses to anything that went on is, for me to contact would be really helpful.
I'm not really concerned about what happens in the movie. I'm concerned about the trial. That kind of should not be happening for a citizen.
Yeah.
So I want to invest in the belonging to his situation get investigated. Not too worried about that.
Okay. Yeah, let's go through it tomorrow. Okay.
Todd, go ahead, since you went last, go ahead and just roll into committee updates if there are any. No committee updates, all righty. Moving on to consent agenda. City manager recommends approval of the following consent agenda items. All resolutions and ordinances on this agenda or added hereto shall be introduced or adopted as applicable by title only, and the full reading thereof is hereby waived. A, approval of minutes, October 13, 2025, regular meeting. B, approval of disbursements, accounts payable, October 8, 2025, and October 15, 2025. Total gross payroll and taxes for the period ending October 16 of 2025. C, investment report. D, second reading of ordinance CCO 25-05. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve consent agenda items A through D by title only.
Second?
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None? All right, and now we'll move into number 8, read across Siskiyou proclamation. And Todd, you have the floor before I have to read that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I've forgotten your name. So I'd like to introduce our rep here, who wants to talk about Read Across Siskiyou, and then we'll read the proclamation.
Oh, thank you again. I missed it.
Year 18 for Read Across Siskiyou, and year 18 of full adoption by our wonderful City of Mount Shasta City Council members. If we haven't met, I'm Karen Potts, and I'm the First Five Siskiyou Children and Families Commission Director for Siskiyou County. We've been here for 21 years. This is my 21st year working as the Executive Director. And as some of you know, we raised our daughter here. We moved here when she was 21, and sadly she moved away, and I hope that one day she'll come back, but our education system has been wonderful. She graduated with her master's and now is living in LA moving towards working as a marriage and family therapist, getting her license there. So we hope that the housing will be will be something that could be supported. Just a little side note, my niece, our daughter left, and then our niece moved here to be a nurse practitioner. She was accepted, accepted a position here, and housing is a real issue. And so, fortunately, we were here to help her, and she has many professional friends that would come here if we had housing supports. So, with that, why do we need more taxpayers in our county? Why do we need Read Across Siskiyou? Because it's one way to increase the number of taxpayers in our county. We know from research that when children are read to from early in their career, early in their life, they're more likely to do better in school and graduate from college, graduate from high school and have better successes. In addition to that, we know that children who are read to, when parents read with their children, they're less likely to harm them, right? It's a positive experience. There's no cases that anyone knows of child abuse when a parent reads to them, during the time that the parent reads to them. So our hope is that not only First Five and our wonderful partners such as Pam, North State Parent, could advocate about the importance of daily reading with children, but also our City Council. Because of this, we'd like to invite you to be a guest reader for Read Across Siskiyou. This year's event is on November 12th. There's an invitation in the packet that I just sent you. It includes information on how to reach out to us. If you'd like to be a guest, please join us. The other thing in the packet that I wanted to show to you is some pictures from our most recent some playgroups that we offer. Some of you may know that every week, every Monday in Mount Shasta at the Jefferson Center for the Arts and the Regenerative Arts Center, there's playgroups that are happening. Since July 1, we've offered 16 weekly playgroups. And actually, let me just share the numbers. "16 playgroups with 177 parents and 192 children who participated." This is just in Mount Shasta. In addition to that, we've offered 7, in partnership with our community organizations, we've offered 7 family fun events, and 567 families have participated in the family fun events. That's most of our community, right? And so as you look at this packet that we share with you, please, we encourage you to join us. We'd love for you to come and visit the playgroup and learn about what the community needs are and how to get the parents to come and be a resource to us and to advocate for things like libraries and other social issues. Let's see, I'm going to pass the books, but in the meantime, please, if you see any needs in the community that we can be a part of, please think of us. We've restructured some of our efforts. We're doing more direct work in the community. This is allowing us to reach more families, and it also is allowing us to be more flexible. For instance, the museum has a proposal to First Five, which will be heard in the coming commission meeting, for First Five to support them with the children's area. And so as you think of activities and efforts that we can support, please think of us to partner together. Thank you for the opportunity, and Pam?
I already handed the books out. Oh, yeah. I'll make it brief.
No worries, take your time.
Well, some of you know me, but my name's Pamela Newman, and I've been a resident and small business employer for 29 years here. And I just want to say I value organizations that help create healthy community life and focus on children. After all, they grow up to be our teachers, our city officials, and business owners. As the publisher of North State Parent Magazine for the last 32 years, I've had many opportunities to work with First Five Siskiyou. The parenting classes and playgroups and trainings help grow our, Trainings help our city grow people who are engaged and better informed. Thank you, First 5 Siskiyou, for your service. And I just want to say the Read Across Siskiyou is a very fun event. I've been a reader for a few years. The book is there. You can practice up, and you can go, and it's really sweet. And it is really good, as we all know, to encourage reading because so many things take the place of that. So it's very important for us all to, for a better society, for us all to be informed and know how to read well. So thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay, so on that note, I believe it's time for me to read the proclamation. Okay. So with the Siskiyou County Proclamation, the 18th Annual Read Across Siskiyou 2025 event, sponsored by First 5 Siskiyou Children and Families Commission. Whereas the ultimate goal of the First 5 Siskiyou Children and Families Commission is that all of Siskiyou's children from prenatal through 5 years of age will be healthy, ready to learn, and supported in safe, nurturing families and communities. And whereas children in Siskiyou County from prenatal through 5 years of age have a successful start in life through daily reading with supportive and nurturing families, caregivers, educators, and community leaders. And whereas early literacy is the foundation for academic, social, emotional, and economic success. And whereas First 5 Siskiyou, in partnership with Siskiyou County Library, dedicates one day each year to promote early literacy by providing the same titled book to be read by guest readers to children in various preschools, kindergartens, children care settings, libraries, and online events throughout Siskiyou County on the same day, and provide each child with a copy of that book to take home. Therefore, the City of Mount Shasta hereby proclaims November 12th, 2025 as the 18th anniversary of Read Across Siskiyou, and be it that this body enthusiastically endorses daily reading, singing, and playing with children as a critical foundation for healthy development and lifelong success. Signed, John Redmond, Mayor of Mount Shasta, today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Looks like I got to make a motion for the CCP-25. Do you want to go public comment?
There's already seconds on there.
All right, so I'm going to move to adopt proclamation CCP, City Council Proclamation 25-01, I believe. 03, wow, we're up to 3, okay.
It's late in the year.
Designating November 12th as the 18th anniversary of Read Across Siskiyou.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? All right. Moving on to number 9, mobile home rent stabilization, and Todd, you have the floor.
Okay. So I was contacted by a couple of residents of a mobile home park here in the community. We've got 3 of them within city limits, and what I heard from residents was that there was an entity that has taken over the 3 mobile home parks and has, since that time, increased their rents for the underlying land exponentially. And what I haven't seen submitted is any specific documentation, across the board. So this is more of a preliminary, discussion to see if council wants to have us investigate this further and then bring back recommendations. I think we have some folks here in the audience to comment, that are residents of the park. We've also heard from a manager of one of the facilities, and I forwarded this person's information to you and their take on it, and I haven't had a chance to look at any of the supporting information, but there was a breakdown of rent increases since the parks were taken over, he said, in 2021, and some comments on why those increases have taken place. I haven't had a chance to dig into that, but we want to make sure that Given that we've got an affordable housing push and a workforce housing push, that we're not working at counter to our attempts to take care of our most vulnerable citizens and to create opportunities for those with more modest means to find housing in Siskiyou County, with not over-regulating business, because we support business in the city. So that's it. It's just to lay this information out. I know some people want to speak, and to get a read from council on, we've got a lot going on at the city, to see if this is something that you council would like staff to pick up and start doing some investigatory work on and come back with a recommendation.
Okay. Any questions for Todd before we go public?
City Manager, is this a project that Kim Fowler, our planner, can do? Relative to just gathering statistics, I'm trying to figure out who physically would do that relative to workloads, which are a lot.
Yes, I think that, yes, I think so. It's, part of it is the quarterbacking, and I'm the person who gets contacted, but I want to make sure that, we get first a look at the information coming in, and then delegating that work and breaking it down, and yes, and then having Kim take it on. She's very, very capable.
Yeah, the reason I ask is that gets into commentary about, it's not a question. Well, I'll wait
to that part. Yeah. Any more questions? No? Okay. All right, we'll open up to public comment. If you wish to speak on this matter, you got 3 minutes. Just say your name and address.
Fairless. I live at the Shasta Horizons Mobile Home Park on South Old Stage Road. I'm here tonight with a few of my neighbors who are deeply concerned about the rising cost of living in our mobile home communities. Since the park was sold to absentee corporate landlords, we've seen steep increases and confusing utility fees. For many residents, especially seniors on fixed incomes, housing now consumes more than half of what we earn. Mobile homes are supposed to be affordable housing, but without local protections, they're becoming unaffordable. We're asking the council to consider a rent stabilization ordinance for mobile home parks, or even a temporary freeze on rent hikes while the issue is studied. We got our most recent increase in September, so there won't be another rent increase until September of 26. They're just raising it once a year. Over 100 California cities have taken action, including Fortuna, which recently passed full moratorium. Mount Shasta can lead also. We love our homes. We contribute to the community. We're not asking for charity. We're asking for fairness, transparency, and a chance to stay in our homes. I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to comment? No, come on up.
Richard Farwig. I live in Space 9 at Shasta Horizon. And after looking online in California mobile home parks, what they can raise the rent each year, from what I read, it's 10% maximum. They're raising it more than the 10%. I can show up. Okay, in September of last year, our rent was $484.18. When it went up this September, it was $572.28. And yeah, they put these fees in here. What before all of a sudden we're seeing an $18.50 water utility fee, which we don't get water from the city. We have 2 wells. That was never shown on our rent before. They took it out of the rent. It was included in the rent. We never saw it. They're doing that to try to lower it, apparently, so they're not reaching the 10% or something, but it's gone up quite a bit. Before they bought the park, our rent was raised every 2 years. My wife and I have been residents there since 1990. They raised our rent every 2 years, $20, $25. Since these people have come in, it's been $35 the first year or so and after, and then gone up considerably each time. So, yeah, I think they're above the California requirement of that 10%. Thank you.
Sounds like it.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak on this before we close it? All right, seeing none, we'll close it down, bring it back to council. Jeffrey, you had something you wanted to say?
I'm not particularly educated on rent stabilization dynamics and the incredibly complex number of perspectives on this. So just, and I'm also speaking to council here because I don't feel like I have much to say other than step one, which is the numbers. Instead of adjectives, just get a situation review. I don't feel like I have any ability to decide anything until we get as numerical as possible a situation review. What has occurred there in the numbers, and just, I mean, does anybody have any?
Well, this is just recommending staff direction to even start gathering us the numbers so we can make this decision.
Yeah, but I mean, versus recommendations on what to do, I wouldn't have any idea how to evaluate that without step one, just what occurred, what has occurred over like the last 5 years or so.
Sure.
What norms are, et cetera.
Go ahead, Casey.
Kind of similar to Jeffrey there, but I would love to see those numbers as well, including when breaking that out, I would love to see any, like, and this might come from the residents yourselves, like, I'd love to see any fees that prior to the new ownership that were included as part of your rent, particularly if you have that, if that was like written somewhere in the original lease, that then if those fees, and it looks like you all have them, you're pulling them out, I can see. So you might be ahead of me. But I'd love to see that as like, because you're saying that they're crossing the 10% threshold, but disguising it as fees that used to be part of the rent, which I totally understand what you're getting at there. And I'd love to just see those numbers, particularly from your standpoint, versus the ownership necessarily.
So, yeah, Todd, and it sounds like you have to go ahead with this.
Yeah, I mean,
Go ahead, yeah.
it's a matter of, sorry, John.
No, go ahead.
You know, again, like you guys are saying, it's a matter of collecting baseline data from both entities and seeing how they compare. I spoke to John Kenny about this, if we wanted to move forward, and it's a longer process than I would like if we find that there's something here. We have to go through a full findings process and, you know, a couple of public hearings. It can take quite a while. I know Chico took 2 years, and I don't think they've actually passed anything yet. But a lot of cities have taken this on. And if this truly is going on, I think, you know, like I mentioned before, the idea that if it's an outsized increase and there isn't a reasonable explanation for it, the idea that a concern is coming in, buying up, you know, a mobile home park and, you know, really, you know, jacking rates up for some of our most valuable or, you know, vulnerable residents. It's something that it, you know, might be in council's best interest to act on.
Yeah. Through the chair. Okay. So I'm a renter, and the management company, I'll just be really blunt, so it's Elite Property Management. They forwarded information regarding new state regulations regarding many things, and I had to go in there and re-sign a lease. So I would imagine, and I would hope that John Kenny has pathways to get information regarding this, that there's regulations on these type of properties too. So I'm not sure why it would have to take that long if the city just adopts what the state regs are.
I think,
And I think we're beholden to enforce them anyhow, so I'm not really sure why this is so complicated.
I think Chico's a bigger community, and there is.
How long ago did that happen?
It's been 2 years. I think part of it is that it's been a robust public debate that's dragged on.
Well, I'm almost certain that the state has regulations on how this has to be.
Yeah, I have.
So why would the city have to go, what, are they thinking of going stricter and tighter, smaller increases than the state allows? Is that what this is about in Chico? So instead of 10%, they wanted 5%?
They want to.
Or CPI, strictly CPI?
And
Okay.
in their case, attached to the CPI, yep.
Okay, well, that's interesting, actually. And so this is the difference. So I'm under the impression that these properties are governed by the state laws that exist, and that there may have been an improper rate increase for them. So then they would have to file individually or as a class to get that rescinded or something. So they might have legal grounds for doing that. But the question is whether we want to do something more favorable to tenants than the state regs currently are. And I think that's where staff needs direction. If we're going to do something more favorable to tenants than the current state laws state regulations require regarding rentals of whatever sort. And that's the question, I think, at hand right here. And so what do we want to do? Just let it go or just gather information?
Jeff,
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know what the state law is.
It's 10%. That's 10%. But
I can tell you that it's California State Law AB 1482.
that's recently put into effect, right?
10% or 5% plus a local percentage change in the cost of living over a 12-month period.
Yeah.
Or lower if there is local rent caps.
So there you go. So that's the point. Do we want to do something locally that's more favorable to tenants than the state laws? And that would require a lot of work on these guys' part. And do you want to make them do that?
But I think there's another piece to this. Is that if it's over 10%, I don't necessarily think that it's up to mobile home residents to take civil action, because I don't think they have the ability to do that. It's bringing in the appropriate enforcement agency, and I believe that the county has some responsibility here, and if not, we can chase down who that is.
Okay.
To the chair?
Yeah.
John, I hear what you're saying, and
I'm trying to get clarity as to what to do. I don't think it'll take very much time to gather information regarding the state regs, like a couple hours, frankly.
Well, right, between state regs and...
As for what happened to these people,
Yeah, what
that
did
shouldn't
happen?
take very long either.
Right. But
They seem very conversant
from
on
both
the
sides,
matter.
I'd like to hear what happened. What are the numbers?
Well, that's what we're doing. Yeah, we definitely need both sides of the numbers.
But
we
the
have to
bigger
do
the
this. We've
bigger
been preaching
issue
affordable
is,
housing.
do we want to start a movement to establish regulations that go beyond? This is the same type of thing if we wanted to clean our wastewater cleaner than what the state requires.
Well, right, but I
Et cetera, et cetera. You
But I
can
would
do
need to
those
know
things.
how clean the water is, and right
Yeah.
now, I don't know what the rent increases and fee increases have been, and for me, step one, let's get a full situation, and then I can start to have a conversation.
Well, it's 18%. They got it, the one fellow here, he had 18% increase. I did the math.
The,
No, sorry, this is not public comment time, sorry.
the other thing too, I mean, the state regs are easy to figure out, like you said, it's 10%, we know what that is. But, I said it before, but one of my main concerns though is disguising rent increases as fees. And I think that like, whether or not the state, that's the one part I don't know if state regs address that or not.
I think so.
And they may, and so that sounds like they'd be in violation of that. But if Mount Shasta is to do something, whether or not we tie it to CPI plus 5%, or, cap it at whatever's lower or higher. Like, I think that the city, maybe we could do, even if we're not going to adjust what the state does, we could try to close that loophole as a city or something like that. Like, not allow added fees to be tacked on in addition to whatever increase the state allows, something like that.
Well, what we do here in Mount Shasta a lot is hire a third party to investigate and advise. So if we don't want to burden staff, we could burden them to find a third party to handle this. Kind of like the tax increase, right?
Well, but I don't know if we need to pay for a third party just to gather
No,
the
I'm
numbers that are
kind
already
of being
out there.
slightly facetious here.
Okay.
If staff is feeling burdened.
Well, I don't think they're going to feel
No,
burdened
no,
until
I'm
we
not
actually tell
insulting
them
y'all
to
that much.
go on with it. I think the collecting of the numbers they can handle. It's just whether or not where we go from there. If we got a 2-year battle ahead of us like Chico, then that's where the staff time comes in.
So
But this is all stuff, we're kind of spinning our wheels here. We kind
But
of,
Mr. Mayor, we've had processes that take 10, 12, 15 years to
No, I
handle.
get that, but-
And code changes, 2 years, that's pretty normal. I mean, you don't like it,
well,
I don't
come on,
like it.
hey, the library's still going. I hear you. The
I think
library's
these
still
folks
going.
would like something to be
No,
done.
that's what I'm saying. We preach affordable housing. The least we can do is look into this and see
Yeah,
what we can
absolutely.
do. That's all we're just trying to get here.
Yeah.
And you can study your numbers. You guys can start talking more politics that way, but we're still just, we're all in the same boat here. We're trying to help our community out by
Yeah.
just making sure that they're, just not getting effed over too much. So I think we're all in agreement. We're just coming from different angles. And trust me, if it's a 9-year battle, we've already gone this far with the library, we could keep going.
So,
Well, look, the landing is.
But the same thing,
It's
landing's 30
30
years. I know, I
yeah.
get you, but we can't, but this is a little different than the landing.
yeah, that's a different animal. This piece it comes down to the data collection. We can do that. That's obvious. That's easy. The next piece is, we've got John Kenny, and John Kenny knows what we need to do to satisfy the state in terms of findings, state planning law. And so we do that, and we have a lot of cities that have undertaken this, and if we decide that this is the approach that we want to take, there is I'm sure a community out there, and we can offer alternatives on approaches that other cities have taken that are different, that make the most sense for our community. It's not a heavy lift. It'll take some time, but it's something that we can do in-house.
I would just say it's well worth it. I mean, we're talking staff time, and I'm well aware of how hard you guys work. I'm not trying to denigrate that. But like, working on stuff for the city, which is mostly we talk about housing and parking, this is one of those. So, seems well worth it.
Okay. So do you need a motion from us to direct you to just look up numbers, or is this just a?
All right, so I'm going to move
Just
to
move,
give
okay.
staff direction to gather facts regarding this particular situation
Both sides.
at hand, both sides of the equation, and gather more facts regarding state regulations with respect to rentals
There a
of all
second?
kinds.
I'll second that.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed is none. Okay. Moving on to the budget review. Melissa, you have the floor now.
Thank you. Hopefully you'll have it in front of you there. I did make copies or a presentation this time because I just didn't do that, but I can next time if you'd like. So I'll just quickly go over where we're at right now. As I mentioned earlier, these are unaudited numbers, and this is a projection of where I think we're at right now. This is my first time of really going through the full year-end closing process with Charlie. So I don't know that I know everything that will change at this point going forward. But for now, this probably looks a little bit different than you've seen before. What I wanted to kind of point out is, we have about $6.2 million worth of revenue that comes into the general fund. And of that revenue, roughly $1,060,000 comes right off of the top to pay for specific expenses that are really non-negotiables, if you will. That being our insurance liabilities, our PERS liabilities, and our debt service liabilities. So I just wanted to kind of point that out. These expenses are paid in July of the fiscal year. So we do have that cash burden very early in the fiscal year. And then I was asked last time about breaking out the kind of one-time revenues, but I thought I should also do that with the one-time expenses because that doesn't really tell the whole picture to just break out the revenue. So I did that, and basically the sort of one-time revenues that we had in fiscal year 24-25, which was mostly the garbage fund that we closed, offset the sort of one-time expenses for the fiscal year. So that was good. However, if we hadn't had that close out of that fund and those one-time revenues, we would have been at a much more significant deficit. So right now I'm projecting a deficit of about $295,000, which will bring our fund balance down to about $1.2 million roughly. Again, these are unaudited, so that may change a little bit. So in relation to that, then I added some information around the sales taxes specifically. We've collected 2 months worth of sales tax revenue to this point, and it is down. So I just kind of showed there my methodologies of how I've been trying to look at the revenues for the past, try to sort of project a future. It's obviously a little bit hard to do, but I'm going to project at this point that we're going to be about $75,000 probably lower in sales tax, and that's sort of a shot in the dark a little bit, but it's using this historical information and really trying to look at what percentage we've collected so far, and it's been down, so it's hard to say that it's not going to continue to be down. So that was the sales tax, and then as you know, on TOT, we started collecting TOT monthly at the beginning of this fiscal year. So that's why this looks a little bit different than prior years. I'd say we're on track for sure, maybe a little ahead, but that also is partly because I'm seeing these revenues a little bit quicker. That is actually really good, and I wanted to, I think there was a little bit of concern possibly about collecting TOT monthly, but because we do have those large expenses that come in July, this is helping our cash flow. Our cash flow has been running in the negative for the general fund, and we'll hopefully make that up. The problem is if we don't make it up quick enough, then we get to the end of the year, we don't have time to make it up. So just kind of trying to keep our eye on these couple things, the deficit and the cash at the same time. And then, of course, the rest of the expenses are, basically operating expenses that are somewhat controllable. So that's the breakout there. One of the pieces that I included in your packet was information in the last 3 years of our insurance liabilities. And I just really pointing that out because when we rebalanced the budget back in April, May, and we cut those staff and we made those adjustments, I did not have this information at that time. So the reprojection that we did is now already off pretty significantly, not only because of sales tax revenue being down, but because this increases the expenses farther than I had expected. Todd and I are going to be at a SCORE meeting at the end of the week, and so I'm hoping to be able to ask some folks about this increase and sort of how to look at these changes and also project. And then I included in there, just because it's obviously a huge amount of our expense that comes out in July, is our unfunded actuarial liability for PERS. That's that graph that, has the big increase. And there's a whole report on this, and we adopted a policy, as you remember, not that long, that's 6 or 8 months ago, I guess. And that has to be reviewed annually. So I have this new report, and we'll be having that on the agenda for you guys to review in full in the next month or so. But I just wanted to point out here kind of this expense that is continuing to be before us. And then I included the balance sheet, mostly just to point out that at the end of the year, we have a large accounts receivable. Mostly that's made up of the taxes that haven't come in as of June 30 and the TOT that hasn't come in and needs to be accrued. I put a list there for you of what made that accounts receivable up, but just letting you know that because of that cash flow, we have negative cash at the end of the year in general fund as it stands right now, which is not a good place to be. So that was pretty much for the prior fiscal year. I don't know if you have any questions or if you want me just to move on into the current 25-26 budget year. Keep going?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Keep going? Okay. So for 25-26, you had adopted a 2-year budget, I guess about 1.5 years ago. Is that right? Yeah. And we went through a process of adjusting that budget. So what I have here for you is the 25-26 adjusted budget. So what we adopted in July, the revisions from that. And then what I included in the next column over was what my projection as of October is for the end of the fiscal year. So as I mentioned, I'm projecting sales taxes to be down. We are going to have increase in franchise fee from the waste management transition. And then the yellow is all that we used to have the allocation of administrative overhead going out in a kind of a group. And what I've done is I've more allocated those expenses more to the enterprise fund directly as they're incurred. Postage is an example. It was being grouped together and allocated. And I would rather have the expenses for the enterprise fund go directly there as soon as possible so it's not showing as an impact on our general fund. So that's what that change is there. And then really from there, not too many other changes. We did get one-time operating revenue for the Danco project and the building fees that we charge for the work that we do on those projects. So that is one-time money that is showing in this projected revision. That money mostly went into the planning and building program and a little bit into fire. I mentioned the unplanned expenses for the SCORE insurance, and really other than that, there wasn't too much. So what I'm showing at the bottom of that kind of third page there of the revised 25-26 projection was that when we rebalanced the budget, we didn't actually balance the budget. We got to a $54,000 deficit projection at that point. And with these adjustments, what I'm now projecting would be about a $200,000 loss. So that's with basically the $75,000 sales tax adjustment and the liability insurance adjustments and then a few other pieces. So I don't know if you have any questions happy to answer them. The last page that I put in there was a balance sheet as of today. The balance sheet that I showed previously was at fiscal year end 24-25. This is the balance sheet for where we are currently, and as you can see, the accounts receivable has dropped. We've collected those revenues now. The bulk of what's outstanding still is the Prop 64 money, but we still have this negative cash, and that's because we have to pay out those large payments at the beginning of the fiscal year. So we really need to keep an eye on that and make sure that we're able to get that cash back into the positive by not overspending the revenue we collect. So that's what I had, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Sorry, I don't have better news.
We've been preparing for this stuff. Any questions right now? We open up to public comment. All right, seeing none, we'll open it up to public comment. If anybody wishes to speak on this for 3 minutes, come on up, name and address.
I'm just learning and listening. I had an idea for revenue, a vacancy tax. So people who leave their homes open for 6 months, they need to sell it, rent it, or occupy it, or pay a vacancy tax. You could use that to help the people who are struggling to pay rent in mobile homes. It's just a source of revenue, and then maybe to meet some of these expenses. Just an idea.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to comment? All right, seeing none, we'll close it, bring it back. If anybody wants to say anything, complain, go ahead, Jeffrey.
Structurally, we're losing about $600,000 a year, it appears to me, with current revenues and current expenses. Last year, which ended July 1st, we're going to lose about $300,000, but that was because we got a one-time about $300,000 transfer from closing the garbage funds, which we used to bill for, and transferring it over to waste management. In other words, we would have saved that. We'd have lost $600,000. Now we've taken some layoffs, and Public Works is taking some hits on funds they have to save about $400,000. So here we are projecting losing $200,000, and that's with layoffs and reductions. I'm trying to just hit the highlights, not just for us up here, but it's complicated, and I'd be remiss in saying that there's going to be a 1% sales tax increase roughly a year from now, and next November, next year, of 06, and we desperately need that money structurally, or we'll have to face significant service reductions, because we don't have a rainy day fund like we used to. It's and the $200,000 number, I don't think that our revenues, given sales tax in particular, and TOT to a lesser but reasonable degree, are headed in the right direction. I don't think the next 6, 8, 10, 12 months looks rosy. I'm thinking it, but I think there's a greater chance it's not going to meet the reduced expectations that we have. And, that's sobering. Anyway, that's all for me. Thanks.
John, anything?
So the issue is, as Mr. Collins brought up, is that structurally this is unsustainable, and what does that mean if we don't pass this tax? Be a little bit more blunt, it means shrinkage of staff in general.
Absolutely.
Everything.
And across the board, probably. So will it lead to less quick service with respect to fire and police? Probably. So there will be consequences. Will it mean that Public Works can't take care of some problems as quickly as they do now? Probably. So there are consequences to being underfunded, and we are underfunded unless there's some miracle with respect to people spending money on hotels and restaurants here from outside, because I think the current population is doing the best they can with respect to spending money here. But it's really tourists that make the big difference, and unless something happens this next summer, which really would affect 26, 27, yeah, we're going to have to hope that the sales tax passes. So anyhow, that's my comment.
Anybody know what the snow forecast is like with the ski park? What we're looking at with that as far as early or later opening compared to last year's?
I can touch on that.
Okay, yeah, please.
Yeah, so Northern California is looking at a weak La Nina right now, which has us projected like everything is coming in just above us and just below with that's not a bad thing though. Like there's below us is projected to be drier and slightly warmer, like Southern California, the Southern Sierra. Mount Shasta is like they're calling for it. The weak La Nina is an indicator of it could be huge. We've seen 22, 23 was a weak La Nina to start, but we've also seen ones that didn't amount to all that much. So people are hopeful, but it's not a guarantee.
Need some more atmospheric rivers.
Yeah.
All right, so if there's no more comment, we were just here to receive the report. We don't have any motion or anything, so we agreed, we're done. Take the bad news home and keep looking at it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I do like the idea of the vacancy tax. I like that one.
All right, so moving on to number 11, staff report on the emergency siren system. And Ken, you have the floor on this.
Mayor, Mayor and City Council, some questions have been presented to staff as far as the viability of a siren system in town for the alerting of wildfire. I'll give this a break for a second.
Just one more big one.
Okay. Basically, the staff was asked to look into the viability of a siren system in town for warning and alert of wildfires. What we've presented here is the cost of what a siren system would be, the limitations of a siren system, the pitfalls of a siren system, and the alternatives. Sirens, just a summary. We used to have a siren system in town, but it was really more for structure fires, and it was to call in the volunteer firemen. It wasn't so much to alert the public. We've got much better systems today with pagers, cell phone apps, other wireless emergency alerts that will tell you exactly what the situation is, where the fire is, how big it is, if it's wildfire, what the evacuation areas are, where you should go. None of these things can be done with a siren system. Where siren systems are being used today are for very specific alerts like tsunami warnings on the coast, where if it goes off, everybody knows what it's for and that they need to get away from the coast.
Those things move fast.
Yeah. And even there, they have backup alerts with the cell phones and whatnot. I can go through this information, but basically, it would be, again, one siren isn't going to do it. You're looking at 4 to 5 sirens if you want to cover the whole town. $25,000, $40,000 a piece, yearly maintenance of $1,000 to several $1,000s. So I'm presenting the information. I can give you a recommendation if you want it, but
I think
All right, any questions for Ken before we open up to public comment? Go ahead.
Am I correct in that to implement this system would be roughly $150,000, $175,000 installed?
100 to 160,000.
Yeah, 100,000 low end, probably 170 high end.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Okay, we'll open it up to public comment if anybody wishes to.
If I can.
Oh, sorry, please go
A
ahead.
couple quick things. I mean, one of the things I didn't realize beforehand, and maybe Chief Burns has something he wants to add to this.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes,
No,
please.
no pressure. That I hadn't thought of is one, that these sirens, they were designed to be heard outdoors. And one of the arguments was made, well, what if we have shift workers and they're in their basement? It's not gonna reach them. And the other, and I think most compelling argument, besides the cost, okay, so the siren sounds, which way do you go? It could end up causing confusion as opposed to being on the Genesis app or Watch Duty. Genesis is a little bit quicker, and it feeds the Watch Duty app. It tells you what zone is going to be evacuated, and it's very orderly in what direction you need to go. And you know, frankly, it will allow for evacuation in a more orderly fashion and give you a direction. Anyway, those are my 2 comments.
Okay. Corey, did you want to add to this? Yeah.
The other big point to bring out, Mayor and Council, is the taxing command centers that are going to take additional calls from a siren going off if it were to be maintenance, or it goes off and then people don't know what to do. What are they going to do?
What is it, Lassie?
They're going to call 911, and it's going to put additional strains on all the emergency dispatchers that are trying to put the information out, as well as, you know, relaying the correct evacuation routes, as well as it's much more streamlined these days with fire, law enforcement, OES, whoever is going to put out the notification that we come up with the plan, and it's relayed within these apps in the emergency broadcast centers and other noted emergency services.
Go ahead, yes, sir.
All right, so this question is maybe going to sound a little redundant, but given the cost of installing the system, 4 or 5 horns, I'm under the impression that you think that money could be better spent on other things.
Like firefighters?
I would agree. On a lot of avenues, boots on the ground is going to get a better message out, as well as putting people into those areas to help people instead of setting off a large device that's going to put mass chaos throughout a 4 square mile, even on our small city.
Any more questions? No? All right, we'll open it up to public comment if anybody wishes to speak on this. Oh, okay.
Out of context, I was at the meeting that this got brought up, and the idea was that the alarm would go off. It would be used in the case of no cell service or something like that. So, and also for our elder population, those apps and all of that stuff isn't really working. It's not accessible for them. So I live in an older neighborhood in Mount Shasta, and there's a lot of seniors there, and I feel like, yeah, this is expensive and maybe we shouldn't do it, but I do feel like it's all part of a fire plan that we need to have in place. Something needs to go off in that, you know, I think we need to look at this a little deeper, because it's not, it shouldn't be either or. It should be a combination of things, it seems to me, in the case of fire or emergencies. And I have lived in towns where the bell goes off, and it does help organize people, because they know when that bell goes off that they go over here or they go over there. That it's a communication tool. So I'm not saying I'm for it if it's very expensive, but I think we should look at it deeper and not just take it out of context. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so just considering what she said, it sounds like overall, everyone has a sense, this mainly sounds like a pretty archaic system, and it doesn't give a lot of detail and specifics about, okay, the thing's going off, but like, what do we actually do with that? But I get what she's saying about there probably is a segment of the population that maybe isn't as good with technology or maybe doesn't have access to the phone. So maybe a better option, a better use, given the budget crisis that we're facing, is maybe there's an alternative solution. Maybe there's like almost like a phone tree kind of program or something, and like a volunteer portion of the community that's activated to go secure the elderly population or the people that don't have, like maybe there's a different type of volunteer type situation that we could have as a solution as opposed to something expensive that's probably not going to give a lot of specifics and give people real direction. That would be my suggestion.
Anyone else? All right, seeing none, we'll close public comment, bring it back to council. Go ahead.
Just addressing one aspect, which is no cell service. In another life, I had a far too much up close and personal experience with cell service. And we made products that ran through the cell system. Cell service is almost guaranteed to work more reliably than any other medium, like what happens if the power goes out on the sirens. If cell service isn't working, we got way bigger problems than whether or not the sirens are going off or not, because they all have, in a grid pattern, they all have backup generators. In an emergency, when time is of the essence, you got backup generators running cell towers enough to make coverage of voice and at the very worst text, which they do both in the system. If the cell system's down in an emergency, short-term emergency, we got way bigger problems. And in a longer term, people still need to know what's going on. Cows and colts, cellular on wheels and cellular on light trucks. There's emergency stations all around the country, and they'll be there in a few hours, which, depending on the category of emergency, isn't going to help, but for longer term will. Like the power's out. And then what happens? Well, cell system is the only thing that's going to work. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there relative to that aspect of this discussion.
I don't know, she's good. Any other comments? No? Okay, go ahead. Oh, yeah.
One other thing to think about during these incidents, when all this stuff goes down or things do go down, these sirens are powered from what? The power grid as well. Are we going to be able to afford the backup generators for all of them, as well as the maintenance to those, as well as that cost? The sheer cost to maintain and keep these things running, even in the wintertime, you know, if it's for whatever it may be set off for an emergency notification, are they going to be full of snow as well? That was one other aspect I forgot to bring up.
Casey, is it?
I just want to say thanks for looking into this, Ken. I know I asked you about it a little while ago, and yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reasons here. It just, this day and age doesn't sound super practical for our town. Particularly, you mentioned their very specific use, like tsunami. But I do think that the fact that it doesn't tell you which way, like particularly when it's something like a fire, if it's something that's moving fast enough, the fact that it doesn't tell you which way to go, that type of thing. And to your point, I think there is definitely a portion of the population that this could help in a certain situation, but there's no guarantee that somebody who doesn't hear a phone is going to hear this necessarily in their house either. That was one of the limitations when looking at it that we saw. But I mean, I think the idea of something like a neighborhood list or something is actually where you kind of organize small groups to check on folks. Actually sounds more practical for this particular application, I think.
Well, we were just receiving a report. We didn't have to go any farther on this, so if everybody's done, we'll move on. All right. Moving on to number 12, rescinding resolution to prepaid sewer connection fees, and we'll continue with Ken on the floor.
Mayor and City Council, back in 1991, the city's wastewater treatment plant was nearing capacity. There was a lot of concern with the local developers and builders that it would be prevented from building or doing developments because of the lack of capacity at the plant. So the council passed a resolution saying they could prepay for their sewer connections, thus guaranteeing that when they were able to build or do their small development, the sewer hookups would be available for them to build. Flash forward, 20-something years, we've got a wastewater treatment plant with capacity up the yazoo. It's not an issue anymore. Also, over the years, this resolution's been misinterpreted. Some people who purchased the prepaid connection were under the understanding that they were done, that payment they made was good forever. They wouldn't have to pay anything more when they did get around to building. That's not the way the resolution was written. There's a copy in the packet of what the original resolution was, and it froze the fee for 3 years. After 3 years, the person, when they went to pull the building permit, would have to pay the difference. Somehow that got lost in translation. Also, people were prepaying water and sewer, thinking they were done. The water prepayment isn't anywhere in the ordinance. So basically, just to clear the books, clear up the misunderstanding, we're asking that you adopt a resolution rescinding the prepayment resolution from 1991.
Any questions?
I do. Okay. Ken, roughly, any idea roughly how many properties have this prepaid connection fee on the books?
44 to 50.
And those are all undeveloped currently?
There's groups of them,
Oh, okay.
and we have about $75,000 worth of deposit money that we've been holding for 30-some years.
So are we, by rescinding this resolution, are we refunding that money, or are
So
we?
that question was asked, and I don't think we've gotten a full solution on that yet. I need to talk to, now that we've got the information from the attorney, I need to talk to the auditor. I think the point was how do you determine who to return the money to? Many of these properties have been sold. And so I need to talk to the auditor, but my proposal is that revenue really was generated years and years and years ago. It can still be shown as a deposit against your future, development fee, but I don't think we have to continue to hold that fund. We have the list. There's information in the property records about what was paid, what wasn't paid, and we just move forward with there when people can show that they now own some property that had a deposit put on it. We give them that credit and we move forward. But I need to research that. And I think that's kind of what the attorney was saying.
Yes, he was saying basically, if someone came forward, who would, whether they were the original purchaser of that connection fee or they now own the land that connection fee was prepaid for. If they could show the paperwork showing that that was done, we'd give them the credit for whatever they paid back in 91 or whatever.
How often does this come up? Like, how often does someone come in and say, I prepaid this, I want to build?
Not very often, but it's come up in the last month.
Oh,
And
interesting.
also, there's a property that holds 43 of these connections that's up for sale.
Which one is that? Just
And, yeah, and it's been 2 people that have come forward in the last month or so, and I think there was one when I first came. So inquiries, and then I think this other one was more than an inquiry, but it does come up.
It's come up periodically, and you know, and you know, people, when there have been misinterpretations that the prepaid fee runs with the land, and it doesn't. I mean, you know, it runs with the property owner who put that, you know, deposit down.
Any more questions? All right, we'll open it up to public comment. If anybody wishes to come up and talk on this. Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Bring it back to council. Do we have a motion?
A move to approve City Council Resolution CCR-25-27, rescinding Resolution CCR-91-33.
We have a second? Second. Okay. Oh, we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? None? All right. Moving on to the subrecipient agreement with Great Northern Services Community Development Block Grant. And Todd, you have the floor.
Yes, so Great Northern Services has been our partner, you know, on a lot of things, but on this subrecipient agreement at the back of the packet is for Great Northern to apply for another round of community development block grant funds, with part of this being for what we applied for the last round, which is for planning for the repaving of Mount Shasta Boulevard for the entire length of it. And the way the CDBG pipeline is, or works, is that you first have to get a planning grant, you know, plan this out, then seek engineering funds, and then eventually construction. But you've got to go through this process. The last time, you know, our application was looked on favorably, but was ultimately denied because we had outstanding findings on our audit. And you know, substantially, we've got the same, findings and recommendations that we'll be using in this grant application. And, you know, we believe that we're going to have a really good shot of, being awarded this time. The caveat here is that to submit this grant application, public outreach and grant writing and submission needs to take place, and that is projected to cost less than $6,000. On the off chance that we are not awarded, the city is on the hook for paying that pre-work. If we're successful, which we think we will be, it gets us on the path to, one of the big issues that keeps coming up with folks, rightfully so, is the state of our roads. So staff recommends that, we approve Great Northern Services subrecipient agreement.
Okay. Any questions on that?
I have a question. Are they the ones who wrote and prepared the prior grant that would have likely been approved were it not for those audit findings?
Yes.
Is there a reason to not just use that same, is there a reason we can't use most of what was written before? Or is that why it's down to 6,000 instead of being more?
That's part, but Melissa's got something to say.
Just want to point out that this timeline of the grant will mean that that reimbursement won't be able to be requested until next fiscal year, 26-27. The grant would be awarded, I believe, in July, August of 26. Sorry. And so in order to spend those funds, I would need to know where you want those funds to come out of and do a budget adjustment for that.
Are we referring to the $6,000?
Yeah, so we have not budgeted that expense. And I just want to, I'm sorry to bring this up right now, but I'm really hopeful that we won't have any audit findings. This is my first time. I'm doing my best to understand the pieces that I don't know about and rectify what I can. I had a conversation with Brandy from Great Northern about, the concerns. The other concern that she mentioned was on the program income grant that we have through HCD. There's grant reporting that you have to do annually. She asked if that reporting had been done, and I didn't know that was how I was supposed to go about doing that and when and all of those things. So she said that it needed to be done by really the end of July. It hadn't been because I wasn't aware. I went in to look at what I needed to do, and I found that it had been done for the prior year but never submitted. So I submitted the prior year and I submitted the current year's information. I got an email back today, that the 2 years prior to that hadn't been done either. And I didn't know that. I don't know how I would know that. The only reason why I really knew last year's hadn't been done is because it was still sitting in the thing waiting to be submitted. So I want to be full disclosure that I'm doing my best, and I haven't even had a chance to talk to Brandy about that yet. The email just came today.
Okay. Go ahead. Well, thanks for catching those ones and then catching this other one as well. Any idea, so I assume that the one from 2 years ago that also was not submitted, that if you submitted these other ones, I assume you can go back and do that one with some sort, any inkling of whether or not that affects our chances of being awarded the grant submission? And then I have a second question as well.
So I'm not familiar with these CDBG grants, but that was a concern of Brandy, which is why we had the conversation. Is she wanted to make sure that the program income reporting had been done, and I need to check because I'm not sure about that. And so again, like I said, I haven't had a chance to talk with her yet about the 2 prior years that I've now come across.
Melissa, do you think it's wise to hold off on this item until you talk to Brandy and potentially talk to Charlie to see if this is something that he would consider a finding?
So it wouldn't be Charlie that would, this particular situation wouldn't be something Charlie would do. The CDBG program knows that we haven't done the reporting. So that's, there's kind of 2 separate lanes, if you will, right? There's the piece that Charlie oversees and has to comment on in our audit report, and they look at that. And that was what we understood the prior year's reason for not getting the award was, mostly. And then this is sort of new information. Did that play into it last year with them? I don't know. I'm not sure on that question in the sense that I don't know the timing. So I think the NOFA comes out at the beginning of January, if I remember correctly. And so I don't know timing wise. That would be a question, of course, we'd need to ask Brandy again, but.
Maybe this is a dumb question. When you noticed that 2 years ago hadn't been submitted, did you check prior to that as well?
Well, they sent me.
Oh, they sent you something about
Yes,
the 2
they
years.
sent
So,
me,
okay.
yeah, so I went and
Presumably they
did the
would've.
one that yes. You
Got it.
understand, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, any more questions? All right, we'll open it up to the public. Come on up.
I just had an idea about the money for the sewer connections. Some of those people may not care about that money anymore. They may be advanced in years. If there's a way to hook it to like a 501c3 and then fund a city project, give them a tax receipt for charitable deduction, and then that way you don't have
This
to-
is not the connection fees anymore. We're talking about the CDBG grant.
Sorry
That's-
to be
that's
out
not
of
the- Yeah,
turn.
we can't be talking about that. Thank you. All right, anybody else? All right, we'll close it down, bring it back to council. So Todd, were you suggesting tabling this for a meeting or two? With the email that just came through today and exploring that?
I think, it's $6,000, but I think we might want to table this one just so we get more information. I mean, if we take 2 weeks and find out that, given this, that we're unlikely to see CDBG grant funding, why spend the money?
From your talks with Brandy, would tabling it 2 weeks significantly impact their ability to get the grant submitted on time if we do end up with them?
That's the part I'm not sure. Yeah,
Yeah, please.
I'm not familiar with those timeframes either, but I am familiar that we are headed towards Thanksgiving and holiday seasons where a lot of things slow way down, and that's all I would want to bring up.
Well, I know you said you're not going to be at the next meeting at the start of November that way, but is that something we can still just table till then if necessary, just for the 2 weeks? To get it in before the holidays, as you're saying, or?
I mean, you could condition approval,
Okay.
on, the read from Brandy on whether this, when she can make phone calls on whether this is going to impact our grant application, and if she thinks it is, then.
So we can vote on this and then vote on it again if something comes up.
You want to make the motion?
Yeah, sure, I was gonna make
No, go ahead. If you're making a comment, go ahead.
No, it wasn't a comment, I was
Oh, you're
about to
making
do the
okay,
same thing that John was
gotcha.
doing.
All right, gotcha.
I was gonna move to conditionally approve Great Northern Services to write the CDBG block grant, assuming that Brandy doesn't think our lack of reporting from 2 years ago will significantly impact our chance to be awarded the grant. And that is about the clunkiest
Do we have a second to all that?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? All right. Okay. Hopefully this doesn't become a cluster. All right, anyways, moving on to 14, the COPS funding budget adjustment, and Melissa, you have the floor again.
Yeah, this is annually. Not sure I fully understand why, but we get information from the county. There's taxes that are set aside for the COPS fund, and I think when they do their reconciliation and they find that there's additional funds from prior year, then they move it forward. And so we have an additional award of about $36,537 over and above what we budgeted. And so I included a budget adjustment there. And I think talking with Chief at this point, we're going to put it in a general expense line and possibly just not spend it and wait until we get to the end of the year if there's any purchases we need. Because right now we, don't need to spend extra money.
Any questions? All right, open it up to public comment. Seeing none, we'll bring it back. Do you have a motion?
I'll move to approve that the city council allow an increase in the budget of $36,537 for the COPS COPS Fund.
Do you have a second?
That's second.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. All right. Moving on to number 15, any outside meetings to report? Collier Group, anything?
That's tomorrow.
Oh, well, I look forward to early November. All right, moving on to future agenda items. We just have the master fee schedule review at some point, but does any,
Yeah, I have one.
does anybody want to add?
It's a repeat of what I said before. Are we going to get a rundown of our Prop 68, $177,000 grant award that mysteriously showed up to no one's knowledge on council, maybe 3 years ago, 2-3 years ago? Chunks of that have been spent. I agree with where the money was spent, post it being spent, and there are plans for, good plans for some of the money going forward, such as building out the parking lot of the, where we just purchased the land by, on Chestnut Street. But there's money remaining. I think there should be some transparency and there should be some discussion as to what to do with the remaining funds, unless they've been dedicated already. Okay. So that's the future agenda item, and you should get this handled before you leave.
Yes, sir.
The mayor,
All right,
yeah.
thank you. All right, well, as
You could have a pet project.
well, then I'll put it on
completed.
there and we don't need a second, so yeah.
You got any pet projects? $47,000.
Is that enough for Washington Street? No, I didn't think so.
No. It's enough for graffiti-proof utility boxes, covered wraps,
I don't know, maybe
things like that. More garbage cans.
find something to buy for the bar and the city pays for it, right?
No, don't go there. They put some coating. Yeah, cool. Yeah, comes right off, right?
Yeah.
I'm talking to the public works.
The elbow grease?
The wraps on the utility boxes, they're graffiti group. They're graffiti proofed, right?
They're vinyl wraps and they're graffiti proof.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
So I saw graffiti, and then I didn't see graffiti. I assumed your staff had taken care of it. It's that micro detail you don't care about yet.
Excuse me.
It's okay.
Anybody else with an agenda item or anything? Seeing none, we will adjourn to the first meeting in November. Good night, everybody.
November, what is that? So it was 177,000 and change. So the first thing that went out is, remember the landscaping project at the visitor center?